Hello, everybody. Sorry for being late. I had a tech issue. Thank you so much for being here and for wanting to learn more about lightness through softness instead of escalating phases and pressure. This is part number 1 of 2 and is the theory. And in part 2, I will pick up a few hands-on videos that I will show you so you can see what the theory looks in action. So let's get started with lightness through softness instead of escalating phases, and what that can mean for you and your relationship. If you have not met me yet, I'm Petra Christensen. I'm the creator and founder of Genuine Connections Horse Womanship. And my absolute passion is to make a positive difference, to create real transformation for horses and humans with the principles of the lead mare and love, peace, and understanding to create interconnection instead of using pressure, control, and treat-based training techniques. And my goal is for horse and human to feel safe, empowered, and confident together, avoiding and even eliminating scary experiences and accidents. So lightness through softness. I posted this a little while ago just as a standalone slide on my Facebook feed, and there was another instructor from the UK that said these are contradictions. You cannot create lightness through softness, and I beg to differ. The other thing that you often hear is that you have to get heavy in the beginning to explain, and then you can lighten, right? And that is very much how natural horsemanship and even traditional horse training operates. This idea that pressure is executed, escalating phases are used, an efficient phase 4 is used to teach the horse that it gets more and more uncomfortable, and then they start looking for the easy stuff, the look or the wiggling the finger or changing the energy or a change of energy in the human. But from my perspective, having been a Pirelli natural horsemanship instructor for several years, and I was successful and my students made progress until I realized that not only me, but also my students tended to hit a glass ceiling, and we saw what was behind it, but we really couldn't reach it. And that was not a problem of the human or of the horse. It was the fact that traditional horse training and even natural horsemanship is built on the communication of the dominant stallion. And the dominant stallion's primary job is procreation and protection. But he does not lead the herd. He does not make the decisions for the herd. That is the lead mare. And the lead mare doesn't round up the herd, is not behind the herd, drives the herd forward. She is chosen, often it's an older mare that is not super physically fit, right? Because her emotional and mental state is super important because of her wisdom and her experience and the willingness to make benevolent decisions for the herd. By the way, if you are already listening, please do me a favor, let me know where you're coming from, where you're listening from, and help the Facebook algorithm to other people to find us. Thank you so much for doing that. So this idea that the lead mare is the one that the whole herd follows. And so when you are currently experiencing a plateau, we're saying, you know, I already have connection with my horse, but I know there is so much more out there, but something is holding me back. Or you have your horse displaying behaviors such as lacking trust or nervousness, spooking, shying, nibbling, biting, kicking, bucking, refusing to answer to your suggestions, hurt-boundness, anything that is really frustrating, and even scary and dangerous for our humans. That is what we're looking for in negative horse behavior, right? Because as long as our horse flows along with what we would like to do, we're happy campers. So the negative stuff always comes along with the fact that it's either frustrating for us humans or it's even scary and even dangerous. Hi, Carmen from Germany. Hello, hello. It's late for you. My goodness. Hello. Hi. I'm excited you're here. So, when it comes to this idea that we are the lead mare, from my perspective, that changes everything that you're doing with your horse, and it starts out with a different mindset. So when I posted in my mentorship group yesterday, what does the halter and lead rope mean for you? From using the halter and lead rope to creating restrictions and to taking choices away, right? I can't do this without the halter and lead rope. I need to have the halter and lead rope. Then my horse will stick around. I cannot go from point A to point B without the lead rope and the halter. I have a baby foal. I need to immediately put the halter on my baby foal because that's how I'm going to do things. So there is very much the idea that we're using the halter to help us humans to assert ourselves and our ideas. And what I have come to the realization is, as I started 10 years ago to look at the lead mare principles and to look at what my horses were telling me, and what I saw in my students was that the everyday tasks really mattered way more than any instructor or trainer or online program that I had ever seen actually put an emphasis on, right? Usually we start in the arena, in the round pen, we have a halter, we have a lead rope, and that's where the training starts. And what we're failing to notice is, and especially when it comes to lightness through softness, that our horse has already formed an opinion of us from the moment we approach, whether we like it or not, right? You might not like the opinion that your horse has currently of you. And when we're looking at why that is happening is that we're missing key elements of helping our horse feel safe and secure with us. And with the safety and the security can come the lightness through softness. So we're not going to just start with lightness through softness, right? There needs to be a foundation and a skeleton of availability when it comes to our horse saying yes to the things that we're asking in order to use lightness. When you go online, I don't know about you, I'm assuming it's the same thing. My feed is filled with videos and reels and posts about just in the end, for me, horse abuse, right? Horse are being pushed and prodded and made do things, and you see the big eyes and you see the upsetness in the horse. And it seems that the majority of the horse industry wants to ignore that fact, right? And right now, we're really living in a time where more and more people speak out, whether it's in the dressage world. I'm not going to say classical dressage, because what we're seeing in show dressage, very different from classical dressage. You see it in the jumping world, you see it in the racing world, you see it in reining, right? Right now, there is a new law in the NRHA, National Reining Horse Association, that a certain chemical can be used 30 minutes prior to showing in order to help the human win. And thank goodness we're living in times where people are standing up and speaking out. And I can only highly encourage you that you become part of that community to make a difference for horses and humans. And sometimes all you have to do is lead by example and helping other people to see that lightness through softness is available to anybody. And like I said, there has to be certain things in place in order to work with lightness through softness. For example, if you have a horse that is worried of leaving the property and you're saying, well, I don't care what your feelings are, what your feedback are, I'm the leader and I'm going to say we're leaving the property and that's what we're doing. You will not be able to lead with lightness. It will not be available to you because your horse is in a state of brace, tension, stress, worry, anxiety, and fear. And you will have to go to control or pressure. And with certain horses, you might go to treat-based training. And I'm personally not a proponent of negative reinforcement. I'm also not a proponent of positive reinforcement, as in clicker training or treat-based training, because of numerous facts. But mostly because we're creating a connection with a click, we're creating a connection with a treat, and that is an ingrained pattern that we're creating in the horse, and it has nothing to do with a heart-centered interconnection where the horse sees you as the lead. The horse might see you as a Pez dispenser and somebody that gives the cookies, but it doesn't necessarily mean that in a situation where the horse doesn't feel safe, that the horse will look for you. We can override certain behavior patterns with positive reinforcement, and I'm not saying that it doesn't work at all. I'm just saying that it is an override of the behavior, and it is not because of you changing who you are, you showing up as the lead, and your horse saying, I see you as the lead. You help me feel safe, empowered, and confident. You're creating a connection in the brain through the click. And only you can decide whether that's something you would like to do or whether you would rather learn how to be the lead mare, which will automatically change your horsewomanship as well as your everyday life. I see it in each one of my students. We are all heart-centered horse lovers, right? Nobody comes to me that's not a heart-centered horse lover. And most of the time we have problems more, sometimes more, sometimes less with setting boundaries. And here we are, lightness through softness. Can we set boundaries with lightness through softness? Of course we can. But you need to be strategic about it, and you need to set yourself up for success, specifically when you're a heart-centered horse lover, and setting boundaries and staying on a clear line, right? We tend to be a little bit wishy-washy because we want to please everybody. And a lot of times then we get the short end of the stick, right? Or our horse gets the short end of the stick because we want to please the humans, and then our horse is not being treated the way we would like our horse to be treated. It's very important to know. So there are 5 steps that lead you to softness through lightness. And like I said, this is part number 1. We're talking about the theory today. And I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe I can't do it tomorrow. Sometime next week, you will see part number 2. If you want to see part number 2, make sure that you write it in the comment section so that I can tag you on the video and that you're not missing out, because that's where I will show you videos where I show you the principles in action and you can actually see what's happening. And if Carmen, for example, is one of my mentorship students, we have by now a library of over 300 coaching meetings, not just individual sessions, because we have several students in the meetings that bring in their video. We have for sure over 700 hours of different horses and different humans applying lead mare principles in the Genuine Connections library. And that's where the exponential growth happens, where you can see the principles being applied specifically with different humans and different horses, and you can learn more and more how to use those strategies in various situations, right? I could never ever show you all these situations. We have students from Australia and New Zealand and Germany and Ireland and UK and Canada and the whole US and Costa Rica and the Philippines. And there are so many different opportunities to see, right? That there is where the exponential learning opportunity takes place, where you learn about the strategies in the online course material, and then you see it applied, and then you send in your videos, and I can help you apply the strategies to your personal situation and your horse's needs and according to your schedule, right? A lot of people always ask me, well, will I have time for that? Yes, you will have time, because right now you have time for your horse, and we will make it work with the time that you have available. And is it a commitment? Absolutely. Growth and progress is always a commitment. And the key is, how passionate are you to have growth and progress? Because we need to change our behaviors in order to see different results. And that's where the growth happens. So let's get started with the LIGHTNESS principles that need to be in place so that you can work with lightness through softness. Number one, you need to set healthy boundaries in 3 areas: between yourself and your horse, for yourself and your own comfort and confidence zone, and with others. So let me talk about these 3 areas and how we can do it coming from a lead mare perspective. A lot of times when you have a horse that tends to invade your space, occupy space, demand space, people will tell you, well, back the horse out of your space, right? And some people do it nicer than others, right? The problem with backing your horse out of your space is that you show up in a dominant communication style. If you have a horse that by nature, the personality of your horse is that of a confident, dominant horse, your confident, dominant horse might very well look at you and say, oh, you are another confident, dominant being. And you know what? I think I can be more dominant than you are. So let's check that out, because that is normal horse language, right? When you're looking at the job that the herd stallion has, the herd stallion has his job for 1.5 to 2.5 years until a bolder, more powerful, more exuberant, more determined, stronger stallion comes along, and who then takes over the leadership through fight, right? They argue with each other until one stallion says, okay, I had enough, I give in. And if it was the herd stallion, then he will leave the herd, either go back to the bachelor herd, or sometimes they actually single out, right? They live on their own. And then the next stallion comes into position. So the dominant language is understood by the horse and can create arguments. It's very, very important to know that that's the case. I see several people online. Tell me where you're from and where you're listening from. I would love to know. And if you're interested in getting part 2, the hands-on stuff, make sure that you write that in the comment section, because then I can tag you on the next part and you're not going to miss out. So this idea that coming from a dominant perspective in showcasing your personal space can create problems with a dominant horse. Depending on how unconfident your horse is, when you are coming across as dominant, which most trainers, instructors, and online programs will tell you to do, then your horse might very well submit to you in the herd hierarchy, but that does not necessarily mean that your horse feels safe, empowered, and confident with you. It just means that the horse said, you are the stronger one, you're the more controlling one, you're the one that's more powerful, and I give up. And I see a whole lot of horses giving up. And if you are a heart-centered horse lover, would you like to have a horse that says, I give up? Or would you like a horse that says, wow, you're so cool, I'm happily following you and your suggestions? There's a huge difference, right? So we need to talk about our personal space where it's not offensive, but very, very clear. We need to be clear about our personal space. We need to be consistent. If one day you're saying, okay, today I'm really going to focus on my personal space, and you're really good about it, and your horse says, okay, I get it. This is your personal space. I'm going to honor your personal space. And the next day, you had an argument with your teenager just before you went out to the horse, and you're like, oh my God, I had to say boundaries left and right. This is so hard, and I don't want to do it. I just want to, sit with my horse, and I just want to soak in horse energy right now. And your horse comes over and comes in your personal space uninvited, and then starts to nibble on you, right? And you're like, I know you shouldn't be doing that, but yeah, come closer. Let me love on you a little bit. And you're creating two different types of signals, right? And so when we're doing one way here and the other way here, what are we doing? We're intermingling this, and we're actually not giving our horse the clarity and the consistency that your horse loves to have. Because guess what? When you are clear and when you are consistent, you are giving your horse certainty. This is how we do things. And this is how we never ever do things. And when your horse understands that it's that clear, then you get consistency in the responses in your horse. For example, the other day I was out and I was feeding my herd their daily little portion of alfalfa. And I had switched things around because it was super muddy. We've got lots and lots of rain over the winter, which is unusual for us here in southern Arizona. And it's okay because we're going to have wildflower galore, right? So amazing. But we had a lot of mud, and the mud dries slower than in summertime. And so I was changing things up. I said, you know what, instead of feeding in their known areas, I'm going to just spread the alfalfa in the front where it's as dry as possible. So we're losing not any of the precious green stuff, right? Okay, so I'm spreading the hay. And I always put one pile extra, so if in case the horses start to move each other, that nobody has to stand there and watch the other horses eat. So always one pile extra. And as I was spreading the piles, my mare Cash was eating next to me, and I was just putting piles 6 and 7 down, and Miss Sari decided to canter away from the back, right? And she is running into the paddock, and I had my headphones on because I was listening to something. And so what happened was I did not hear Sari coming, and she pushed Cash over. And so I saw Cash out of the corner of my eye coming towards me, and I reached with my hand out like this, and I'm like, not available. She touched with her nose my hand. And then she turned around. She never pushed into my hand. She touched my hand, lightness through softness. She touched my hand. She's like, oh, yeah, use space, woo, right? And she turned around and she went around me this way and went to the next pile. Lightness through softness. Why did that happen? Because I am clear and because I'm consistent, and there is certainty in my actions. And so there is certainty, right? When I set boundaries with my horses, that my horses will accept my boundaries. And my mare Cash is a cutting horse, is cutting bred. So she is rather quick on her feet, and she has big expressive movements. So it wasn't just a move over, but she took her front feet and she went whoop, right? And she was ready to run in that direction, and then she realized personal space not available. So there we have an example, because of me being consistent with honoring my personal space, so not driving the horse away, but also not shrinking back, but this is my personal space here. And if you have not heard me talk about, seen me, how I describe personal space, put that in the comment section. I send you a link to a YouTube video where I talk about 15 minutes about the subject and where you can learn everything about it, right? So boundaries between you and your horse, super important. Now, boundaries for yourself. If you have seen last week, I did a freebie. It was called the 5 Areas of Confidence, and it's actually the first part of a 5-part series. If you're interested in the other 4 parts, I am going to open up 10 spots. 3 are already taken. I haven't really advertised or had sent any emails out or anything like that because I've been busy. So there are, right as of right now, there are 7 spaces available. I will not make more spaces available because I will offer a free video coaching session, which usually when I do these, when I do have time, then it's $297. I'm offering this 5-part series with a video coaching session and lifetime access to the material for $97. If you want to have a spot, put it in the comment section. But the 5 areas of confidence and comfort are super important to know, because we want to make sure that our comfort and confidence zone overlap with our horse, right? So if you imagine, here is your horse's comfort and confidence, and here is yours, right? And there is a huge big gap in between. That's not going to work. You are not in a learning frame of mind. Your horse might not be in a learning frame of mind, depending on what it is. We need to analyze and assess our horse's comfort and confidence zone and our own, right? It needs to interlink, and that's where learning can take place. From there, we're going to be smack in the middle of that overlapping confidence zone. We're going to venture out in small steps. And those steps are going to be absolutely tailored to you and your horse. What somebody else does might not work for you. That's why my mentorship is totally personalized. You don't have a step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're doing self-study and that's what you do. You're watching the videos, you come back to the group, I see your video, and then I'm going to customize the entire journey for you and your horse. And nobody is ever behind or ahead. You are where you're supposed to be. That is right for you and your horse. It's very important. So you need to set boundaries for your own comfort and confidence zone. If you had a scary experience, if you're lacking confidence right now, if you maybe even have had an accident, we need to look at that and we need to decide, where do you feel confident that you can be the lead mare? Because if you show up as, ooh, I don't know, but everybody's doing it, I have to do it too, right? Everybody's going on the trail ride, I'm just going to live somehow through it. It'll work out, right? My horse will follow the other horses, and you're ignoring your change of breathing, and you're ignoring your change of heart rate, and you're ignoring the butterflies in your stomach, and you're ignoring the sweaty hands, and you're ignoring your thoughts of avoidance, right? Because as humans, we want to fit in. We want to be part of the party. We want to be part of the tribe. And we have a tendency not to stand up of what we need. So it's really, really important that you stand up for yourself as much as you stand up for your horse, which brings me to the latter thing, right? You need to set boundaries for yourself and for your horse with others. Who has experienced, I'm going to raise my hand right here, who said, don't be a weenie, show your horse who's boss, get on that horse, get back on the horse, don't let her get away with that. And you knew it was a bad idea. Your intuition told you, don't go there, bad idea, look at your horse is not ready for this. But in my case, the lady that was my neighbor, number 1, she was also a horse trainer. Number 2, she was older than me. She had a lot of buckles and trophies in her office. She was actively getting money for training other people's horses. I'm like, who am I? She must know better. Got back on my horse, knew it was a bad idea. Guess what happened? flew through the air, hit the ground with my face first, slid a little bit. Fence post was right here. Head was right here. I opened my eyes and I'm like, oh, I could have been paralyzed. I could have died. So super important. Same thing with the vet. The vet comes out and he's like, oh, I'm short on time. You know, your horse better has to behave. What, your horse is not allowing me to make an injection? Let's put that crank on the ear. Let's put the crank on. Don't allow your horse to be manhandled by others, including experts. My student Jill with her horse Serendipity, when he is the baby from her mare, right? So she had the mare, was a rescue mare, the baby was born on her property, and now he's being gelded. And she had done a fabulous job getting him really happy and relaxed around humans. But what she had not considered was that there is going to be an injection and that the horse might oppose to that. So she said to the vet, please do not continue right now. My horse's confidence would be hurt if we go through this. What options are available? Oh, oral sedation. Great. Let's please give the horse the oral sedation. The vet went away, came back a little while ago, and then it was a positive experience for horse owner and the vet. These are the kind of boundaries that you have to set very with clarity, consistency, so to create certainty, so that you can respond with lightness. And Denise says that happened to Ash when he first got to the boarding place. I stopped that fast. And is so important, right? Because there are lots of different ways of handling horses. And it's important that whoever works with your horse or touches your horse and handles your horse is in alignment with your beliefs, because you are not the lead mare if you allow other people to work against your inner grain and your inner beliefs. It creates a downward spiral and your horse can feel that. Very, very important. So, healthy boundaries, lightness through softness by bringing clarity, consistency, and certainty in your horse's life when it comes to space conversations. If you have never experienced the change in a horse, when you don't change anything else, but you become clear about your personal space, you will be amazingly surprised at what suddenly can happen, because right then and there your horse will recognize you as the lead mare, because the lead mare honors her personal space. She doesn't chase the other horses around. Now here's the caveat, right? Do not look into artificial environments and herd structures in humans' will. I have so many people say, you don't know what you're talking about. We have a mare at our barn. She's so dominant. She kicks the shit out of every other horse. She bites every horse. This is not the lead mare. This is artificial behavior in an environment that is rigged with restrictions and with lack of resources. Whether it's space, whether it's food, whether it's stress-free environment, whether it is harmony in the herd, there is lack and restriction. And then we see behavior that is not natural. So please do not compare unnatural behavior with what I'm teaching. The herd environment in the natural herd is peaceful. Arguments are short-lived. Horses spend a whole lot of time being together. There's not so much actively doing or playing. And we need to, in order for our horse to see us as the lead, you need to emulate the equine natural herd. It's very, very important that you don't make the mistake to look towards unnatural environment in order to justify dominance, control, and pressure-based training techniques. The next thing is we need to look at mini and micro thresholds. This is where a huge part of lightness through softness come from. When you start to look what happens before the big stuff happens. I'm going to give you an example when it comes to mini and micro thresholds. I had not too long ago a lady from Scotland saw one of my posts and she contacted me and she said, I wonder whether you can help me. I got a horse. His name is George. And he is so aggressive during feeding times. I'm afraid of him. And so she sent me a video. And so the horse was lunging over the fence panel, was trying to bite her as she was approaching with a bucket. She was trying to dug out from underneath him, opening the fence panel, getting somehow the horse away from her, putting the bucket in the stall and running back out and closing the gate. And it's just a matter of time with this kind of, and I'm going to say defensively aggressive behavior. It's very, very important that you understand that this is defensive. It is a defense. And the horse has learned that aggression is a coping mechanism of what's happening in his or her life or what previously happened into his or her life, right? So this is a traumatized horse. This is an abused horse, and he has learned certain behaviors that have helped him to cope in human's will. So what happens before the horse lunges over the fence panel? Most likely, I didn't see the approach, but most likely at some point there is a distance between horse and human where the horse feels threatened, okay? That can be 5 feet, that can be 10 feet, that can be 20 feet, depends. Yeah, that depends on the horse, where you see a reaction of the horse that says, please don't come closer. In the beginning, it's a, I'd rather have you not come closer, right? So that might be the ears kind of going back, the head going up, the eyes getting, oh, there comes a human. Oh, we are in an alert phase, self-preservation, self-protection, right? When we meet the horse right there and we say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I do not want to feel help. I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel unsafe. I don't want you to feel unconfident. Let me just stop here. Does that help you? I see you, I hear you, I understand you. Oh, that's not enough. How about I make a step backwards, giving you a little bit more space? Is that going to help you? I had a student in the UK. Her horse was when she was in a stall, it was a Dutch door, right? Top always open and the bottom closed. And when the human would approach, the horse would turn into a crocodile. You couldn't even see her ears anymore. And her teeth would wide open and would start snapping towards the human, right? And within a week of noticing the mini and micro thresholds where the horse says, please, I'm worried, the horse completely stopped the behavior. The human was able to come in her personal space, was able to halter her, right? So mini and micro threshold is what happens before the big stuff happens. And these are the details that are going to be so valuable for your horse. So again, lightness through softness. If I get so close that the horse feels, he needs to turn into, or she needs to turn into a crocodile, then there's no learning opportunity there, because you have to get big, you have to use your stick, you probably have to whack the horse away from you, because of the intensity that the horse feels in their mental and emotional state. And most likely at this point it is also physical, right? So we have mental, emotional, and physical. And when horses are consistently in self-preservation and self-protection, which a majority of the horses in humans will are, and that is just very unscientifically what I have experienced with the decades and decades that I've spent with horses and humans. Various levels, right? Sometimes it's just small little braces and tension here and there, and sometimes the horse is in fear mode all the time, right? And that's where you have a horse that where humans have scary experiences and accidents. And that's why the horse industry is considered such a dangerous sport. That's why, because of control and pressure-based training techniques. From my perspective, being with horses, hanging out with horses, doing things with horses, whether you're riding or not, can be like going to the mailbox. Is there a chance you can get hurt walking to the mailbox, getting your... Of course, but what are the chances, right? So when I look at my Journey and Connections horsewomanship program, it is a risk management assessment program, and then we're reducing and eliminating the risks that it's like going to the mailbox, right? There's always a chance that you can stumble, that you know, some animal dug a hole and you step in it in the dark or whatever. But the chances are, right, that you're just going to get your mail every day, right? And that's how I would like for it to be. So mini micro thresholds, super important. As soon as you notice the little stuff, you will be able to use lightness through softness. If you ignore the little stuff and you notice the kicking, right, and the biting and the bucking and even nibbling, right? In the case of George, I said to you know, the lady from Scotland, that how about you sit in the paddock if you feel comfortable to do so, and you just describe your personal space. You don't do anything else, right? Just that. He can hang out with you, but he cannot come in your personal space. And I sent her my personal space video and I gave her some instructions. And so she came back and she said, you know what? I'm on the one side, I'm really excited. I'm like, okay, great. What happened? Well, George came over to me and he actually didn't pin his ears. And in the beginning, he didn't try to bite me. I'm like, great. What happened then? Well, you know, I didn't want to push him away. I didn't want him to go away because he came to me. And I didn't want to, you know, I just didn't want him to feel like I don't want him to be with me. So I let him come in. And then he started to nibble on me. And then he bit me in the arm. And then he turned around and he kicked at me. Why did that happen? Because the horse saw the personal space as available, and then he reasserted himself and he became stronger and stronger and stronger because that's his coping mechanism, right? If we would have described our personal space and we would, hey, George, this is amazing that you're here, right? And you can be with me, but 3 feet away. The tricky thing is that we humans, we think that closeness creates connection. We think that touching creates connection. We think that sharing food creates connection, treat-based training, right? Heart-centered horse lovers love to go there. And when I stopped being a Pirelli instructor, I went to a $5,000 positive reinforcement clinic, and I walked away with, this is not what I don't want to do, right? So, and you have to decide that for yourself. If you want to be the lead mare in my program, I use treats. I use cookies or carrots, a piece of apple or whatever, you know, even, you know, a handful of alfalfa as a gift. And it just randomly sometimes shows up. It's like if you have a company and you have Christmas bonuses, right? Everybody on Christmas is like, well, it's Christmas. I'm going to get my bonus. And then money isn't there, nobody can get a bonus. And you have employees being pissed at you, right? Ooh! Down goes the energy level and up goes the frustration. How about randomly during the year, suddenly there is a little bonus or a gift involved, and everybody is going to be excited and they didn't expect it, so they also cannot be disappointed. It's the same thing, right? We just once in a while it shows up, but there is no consistency that the horse can rely on and say, where's my treat? I'm not going to come to you if there's no treat. Where is it? Right? Or hand over the treat and nobody gets hurt. So mini and micro thresholds, super important, and we do not dissolve them with food. You can use food to gauge your horse's relaxation and to create a positive experience in a previously scary environment. For example, trailer loading. Don't think about feeding your horse in the trailer. Think about just going to the trailer, closing the door, and just putting a bowl of feed next to the trailer. That's where we could start out. my mere sorry when I first got her. For 8 years, her entire life, she did not load in the trailer. She had nothing but bad experiences. She actually sent somebody to the hospital. So I put the feed bowl behind the trailer, had the trailer door closed, and she looked at me and she looked at the feed bowl, and then she grabbed the feed bowl and she walked backwards 10 feet under the tree, and that's where she ate. And I'm like, okay, I get it. This is where you feel safe. You do not feel safe behind the trailer. So we started there. I didn't say, oh, you can't have the food over there. You have to have it. No, 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 no. Mini and micro thresholds, super important. Okay, so healthy boundaries, mini and micro thresholds, really, really important. Now, the next thing is relaxation. And it's interesting, I had lately a few posts in my feed that were talking about how we grow outside our comfort zone, and that you're not going to grow if you're in your comfort zone. And there is actually a valid point in that. However, we're not just dealing with us, the human, but we're also dealing with a horse. And most likely, you're dealing with a horse that had already a whole plethora of experiences with humans. Most likely, not all of them were positive, and a lot of them were uncomfortable, scary, or even scary, right? So as you're learning and as your horse is learning, right, and as you're creating the foundation for your relationship, from my perspective, the best way to have a positive experience for yourself and for your horse is starting smack in the middle of your comfort and confidence zone. I was listening this morning to a presentation from Dr. Joe Spencer. He advises U2 on their tour. He has worked with Lance Armstrong. I think he's worked with Microsoft. So he's a very high-end coach, and lucky me, I'm in a group where I got to experience his teaching. And if you ever see or hear of him or see a video, please check in. Amazing guy. So he was talking about Tony Robbins events and the fact that, or, you know, any other, I don't want to just point somebody out. There are lots of people nowadays that create big events where, you know, there's a lot of music and hooray, 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 and walking through the coals and, you know, getting out of your comfort zone. And he was talking about how there is a huge high during these events, and how after a high, there is always a low. There is the mountain, there is the valley, there is the mountain, there is the valley. And that a lot of times people come home from these events and then they crash. And in the end, there was a huge high, but there was no change that was facilitated, right? And that during these events, a lot of times people are pushed out of their comfort zone with that idea of burn the boat, right? Burn the boat, and then you don't have an opportunity to step back and you have to move forward. And what I didn't know, I learned that this morning, or was it yesterday? Cortez, what do you call that? Can't think of the German word right now. I'm going to call him warrior, right? Where the story is based on, right? This idea of burn the boats. The reason, you know, why he burned the boats was actually that they had told him, don't come back if you know, don't conquer. Don't come back. If you come back, we kill you. So he had either the choice to go back and be killed or to move forward and have a chance to survive. So he decided that he needed to burn the boats in order to give his entire army a reason to fight and to conquer, right? So this idea that you want to be careful with how far out of your comfort zone you want to be in order for you and your personality to be able to learn, right? The more you learn to feel uncomfortable and the more you feel okay in the unknown, the more you can stretch yourself. The less you feel comfortable with the unknown, the smaller the steps you have to take in order not to give up. That's why I customize my mentorship program to each student, because everybody has a different personality, everybody has a different experience, everybody is at a different point in life, and you need to be aware of how big your steps can be in order for you to learn and to grow and to prosper. And because we work with horses, not just with ourselves, right? We need to also consider the same thing with our horse. The more our horse is damaged, the more our horse was a rescue or abused in the past, the more our horse was worked with control and pressure, the more shut down your horses, the more scared your horses, yada, 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 the smaller the steps have to be. For example, sometimes I have students break down the steps of haltering. And not just we halter, we don't halter, but can I stand next to my horse with a halter, and can my horse stay in relaxation? Sometimes when students come without the halter, the horse is like, hey, there you are, there's my human. And then you come with a halter and they're like, oh shit, go away with that. It is a piece of rope, it is a piece of leather, it is a piece of nylon webbing, and the human, not necessarily you, a human, has put meaning into the tool. And now the horse has a preconceived notion of what will happen when that thing is on their head. That's why I said halter and lead rope, a tool to control, to use pressure, to restrict, to take choices away, or a tool of lightness through softness. So we might have to stand there with a halter and do nothing. We might just come with a halter and hang it on the fence and walk away. We might take the halter and we're just gonna lift it up and down, right? We might just, be clumsy and just fiddle around with a halter and drop it and pick it back up. And can my horse just say, oh, what are you doing? Or is that gonna, cause them to have brace tension, stress, anxiety, worry, and fear? It's important that we know that, and we take smaller and smaller and smaller steps. I have a student in Australia. She has 3 Brumby stallions, and she is not an experienced horse owner. So we're taking super, super small steps so she and her 3 stallions can be comfortable and confident in each other's presence. So this is what happened in one of the last videos that she sent in. Her oldest stallion, beautiful blue roan, the way he stepped off the trailer, I could tell that in that moment where he put the foot on the ground out of the trailer, he paused for a moment and he looked around and scanned the surrounding. He didn't jump out of the trailer, he didn't run off, he paused and he was like, in that moment, we knew how confident he was in himself. So this stallion, it's feeding time, right? 3 stallions. Everybody has their bucket of feed. He's like, okay, I'm done with my bucket. I'm going to go now over to the young kiddo and I'm going to take his bucket. So what did my student do? She stepped back and she said, space not available for you. Over here is your bucket. Guess what the stallion did? Yes, ma'am. Gonna go now. Back to my bucket. Right? 2 thumbs up. Lightness through softness. Available because we're taking small steps and we're staying in relaxation. So it's super important that you start with relaxation. Where is your horse currently relaxed? That might be in the barn, that might be in the paddock, that might be in the pasture, that might be on your property, that might be walking out of the gate and coming back, right? Sometimes it's as small as leaving the barn, and 5 feet out of the barn, the horse is already, oh, what's happening? Where am I? Oh, the wind is blowing, right? Your horse is not in relaxation anymore. You need to immediately go back where your horse is relaxed. Same thing with a herd-bound horse. It is so, so sad state of the affairs that when you go and you type in herd-bound, look at the videos that come up. There is one article from somebody who has a TV show, and it's typical, make the right thing easy and the wrong thing difficult. The horse has to have manners. The horse doesn't have a choice. The horse doesn't have a voice. They have to do this, right? You have to be the master of your horse. The second video is a guy, and in the beginning I listened to the video, I'm like, oh, he says the right things, right? But then what did he do? He had the horse stand away from the herd, and then he made the horse canter around the other horses. And he wore the horse out in that familiar surrounding where the horse wanted to feel safe, and he gave the horse rest away from the herd. This is how you create learned helplessness. Very, very sad. Please do not use make the right thing easy and the wrong thing difficult. I used it as a Pirelli instructor, and I've always been a very kind and soft horse owner, instructor, horsewoman. And you can use these strategies when you're soft, and they're still not okay. Because you still don't hear your horse, you still don't see your horse, you still don't help your horse feel seen, heard, and understood when you do that. So triple X relaxation strategy means you start with relaxation and you go back to relaxation as necessary to end with relaxation. If you haven't heard of the figure 8 strategy, this is one that I use to improve, or not improve, to expand the horse's comfort and confidence zone when it comes to distance, right? And it's very, very easy, little steps, gradually expanding. It's like you're rolling out Play-Doh, right? And you're just making it a little bit thinner and thinner and thinner. And eventually it's just going to go instead of ripping it apart. And those little steps, even a beginner horse owner can take. And then we're ending up lightness. We're ending up in part number 5, lightness through softness. So for my students that are still here, that are in my mentorship group, you all know that I did not talk enough about number 1, and number 1 was the lead mare mindset. And I, on purpose, kept that for the end, because there is so much to be said about the lead mare mindset, but I want you to think about it like that. I talked about the lead mare and how the lead mare is chosen because of her wisdom, her experience, and her willingness to make benevolent decisions of the herd. And with that comes a mindset of we are doing things together. Most instructors, trainers, online programs will tell your horse this, make your horse do that, cause your horse to do this. Stand in the middle and make your horse run circles around you. It creates disconnection. We're singling the horse out. And we're creating an unnatural life experience for the horse. Because the horse is always and will always be a family member in the herd. They do not see themselves as individuals, as standalone, right? We humans, we have this polarity in us, right? We want to be part of the group, but we want to recognized as an individual. We want to have the safety of the group. We want to fit in, right? But we also want to be recognized as the individual. The horse always wants to have that family experience. So if you are coming from a place where saying, I am family, I am a family member, I'm a herd member, and I am the lead in our family. And I promise you that I always make decisions that are benevolent for our family. I never take myself and my needs and my ego, my unhealthy ego, because everybody has an ego. It's okay to have an ego, but there's a part where we have an unhealthy commitment to ego, right? I never will use that and make you feel less because I want to feel more. I'm never going to make you feel less because I want to make more money. I'm never going to make you feel less because I want to go on a trail ride. I'm never going to make you feel less because you have to go in the trailer because I want to go to the clinic. You are the family member and you're taking the lead, always from a perspective of making benevolent decisions for your herd. And those are the 5 LIGHTNESS principles that will lead to, because number 5 is lightness through softness, that will lead to lightness through softness. If you're interested in watching part number 2, which I will pull out some videos where I will show you what this actually can look like in action, let me know. Put it in the comment section so that I can tag you when that goes online. Right now I have to be conscientious of my time. So I cannot give you a day right now, but I will tag you. And since it is on Facebook, I probably will run it through Zoom because I want to do a screen share, but it will be available as a replay and I can tag you on it and I can send you the link. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of the day. As always, like I say, my mentorship group meetings, be blessed and with lots of love, because love makes everything better in our horse womanship as well as in everyday life. And if you have questions, post them please in the comments. And if you're interested in my clinics, retreats, mentorship, the mentorship is on waiting list right now, or the 5-part series, Confidence for Horse and Human, just let me know in the comment section and I can send you more information about that. Thanks for watching. Bye now.